All right. Back to this. I guess previous part, we actually just straight up finished the game, or at the very least, the main story timeline slash good ending. Because one of the unique features of this, besides the voice acting, or I guess more so uncommon features, not necessarily just this one, so there ultimately are multiple endings, which is something that I'm not sure I've even seen in any Armada I've played. So obviously we got through the main one. So now I'll pretty much spend the entirety of this part going through the rest, no matter how long it takes, because I really don't want to spend multiple parts. Granted, I think that there will be at least 2 or 3 more endings depending on what we pick. But I mean, yeah, because they won't advertise multiple endings. Let's say if there were 2, it would just say the game can end one. The game can end in one way or another, depending. They more so specify the duality of it or whatnot, as opposed to the multiplicity or whatnot. But yeah, also it's actually pretty nice because I mentioned how in the previous recording or previous part that I was on pace with this recording is like I was on pace with Fallen Angel or whatnot, and that's actually pretty funny because I just finished Fallen Angel today. So I finished this mod one day prior to Fallen Angel, but also by the time I was finishing up this mod, I had already gotten through the main portion of Fallen Angel all the way up to like arguably the most important point in the mod. But I mean, I got through the main sort of like story elements of each mod around the same time. I made it all the way to I made it through the climax of Fallen Angel by the time I finished this mod. So they really weren't too far apart. Yeah, after finishing Fallen Angel, though, I'm still going to stick with my word that this mod is pretty much superior in nearly every retrospect. That's all I really have to say, honestly. But I guess another thing, this is kind of the last thing I was thinking of or wanting to talk about. Ultimately, basically, I was initially planning, well, obviously, I thought I'd finish this mod way before Fallen Angel. Because of that, I planned to sort of play New Eyes once I finished it. Ultimately, I'm going against that. Given I'm finishing Fallen Angel and this mod, Outcast, at around the same time, I ultimately think I'm just going to chill for about a week and focus on Insurgents most likely. Because I've mentioned at least earlier this, well, now it's summer, but like earlier in the spring that ultimately I'd have a good like 3 to 4 weeks of like free time during the summer or whatnot. So ultimately during that time I would kind of be doing as much as I could for this. Ultimately that ends on what? I should be uploading this the 6th. It ends on the 15th. So I'm thinking what I'll do is, by the time I'm done with this and Fallen Angel, it'll probably be tomorrow at least. I'm thinking I'll just chill for a week, focus on Insurgents, and then ultimately, once my free time ends or whatnot, and I get busy again, I can figure out what to record from there. And I'm thinking likely it'll just be one recording of New Eyes. I won't record 2 mods at once, like not Fallen Angel and Outcast, but it will just be one mod, and New Eyes will be the first mod I do. I think I save New Eyes for that as opposed to anything else, and in the meantime, focus on Insurgents. So that's just mainly what I wanted to say, because yeah, it's kind of like dealing with schedule or whatnot right now, given I'll get busy again soon and I likely won't be able to record twice a day, or just that it won't ultimately be good to record twice a day. Okay, so the various now, because we know there are different endings, I mean, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way back. I'm going to work my way from the end to the very last decision we made all the way back to the beginning, simply because I think that's how it is. I may skip dialogue, but we'll ultimately see. Like I said, I think there's at least 2 or 3 different endings. I'm not exactly sure how many there are. I didn't read. Obviously, we got the good ending, but which basically means pretty much every R ending should be a bad ending. I mean, being 100% honest, I don't see any other good endings here, just bad endings from here on out. But I mean, that's kind of what it's like, though. So I guess maybe there's like some sort of neutral ending, but ultimately, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like, I was thinking there may be a secret ending if you pick no at the beginning or something. I've said that's from the very beginning, but ultimately, some of these choices, like, there could be an ending with regarding confronting Clyde there and then, as opposed to like waiting for him to apologize now or something. Ultimately, we don't know. We won't know until we pick them. So I think that's all you need to do. So let's get into it. So this was the last choice we made. Basically, in this choice, we go, or actually, hold on. We first off, we definitely know there's ultimately a bad ending given if we don't go see Yuri here and now. But ultimately, so this is when we do go see Yuri, and then we actually catch her like in the midst of doing something very bad. And then basically, you know, this is where we decide presumably whether to stay with her or leave her. I mean, I assume that's what this comes down to. You know, obviously we picked I'm here for you the first time around, but I mean, you know, given we gotta see all the endings, we gotta pick the other option, despite what it may entail. Yeah, so I'm sorry, Yuri. I can't do this anymore. Okay, yeah, so we just straight up leave her. That was ultimately what was on the line. I didn't know where that was going, but ultimately that's what AMC's making it seem. Yuri and I slowly release each other. She looks in my direction, waiting for me to continue. Swallow deeply. Sorry, Yuri, but I don't think this is going to work out. What do you mean? Talking about us. I don't think we should be together anymore. But I thought, I know it's hard, but I don't know how to help you. Love you, but I can't help you. I hope you understand. Okay, yeah, this ending is completely unrealistic. The MC's actions here are completely unrealistic. This is going to be solely for like a sort of different alternate ending, despite how little sense it makes for the MC. Maybe even not necessarily for shock value or whatnot, but more so just they probably made the main storyline first, and then they ultimately made decisions that could create different endings, which is where this comes in. Because again, it makes no sense that the MC would pick this decision. That's why we ultimately went with the first decision prior, but still an ending nonetheless. Feels as if I just driven a knife into her heart. I understand, MC. Can barely even help myself. Makes perfect sense that you wouldn't want to be together anymore. It's foolish of me to think this would last. Yeah, because this is presumably when we actually catch her cutting. We've had her admit before or prior, or she actually legitimately told us, which was a good sign. But now that we've caught her, that's kind of a different story. You're strong, Yuri. I know you'll be fine. You just need to be confident in yourself. I know. I think I just need to be alone for a while. I don't foresee this ending well. Hearing this makes you feel nervous. You should be nervous. This is making me feel nervous. Yuri, don't worry, MC. I'm not going to harm myself. Just want to be alone right now. Please just leave. But Yuri, no, just leave me be. You don't have to worry about me. Yuri was just starting to sob again. She's already feeling terrible, so I didn't object. Knowing my next move, I slowly rise from the bed. Yuri remained seated, her face buried in her hands. She was still sobbing from this whole situation. I opened Yuri's bedroom door and was about to leave. She ran and took one last final look at Yuri. This isn't going to end well, dog. We got no skip option here. He should take the knives with him as opposed to anything else. I mean, that's the only way to ensure. Like, if this was legitimately a route he would take, as opposed to just solely creating a different ending, he'd ultimately grab the knives just to ensure that nothing happened. What's done is done. Yuri's still sobbing. I quietly leave her house. I'm not even sure if she looked at me as I left. Doesn't matter now. Betrayed Yuri and her trust. Can't take it back. Yeah, it's obviously bad ending. Where's the black? It's okay. Screen cut to black. Where's it going? 1 week later. Okay, this isn't well. Because here's the thing. What happened after that was we made up with Yuri or whatnot. Yeah, because we made up with Yuri, and then ultimately it cut to 3 weeks later during the show. Like, yeah, so here's what happened. So the moment that happened here, we ultimately made up. Then it cut to 3 weeks later for the talent show. And given that it's only 1 week later, it's not the time of the talent show, so something's going to happen between now and then. Ultimately, don't foresee it ending well. Let me just turn down volume to make sure. Time has been dragging by the minute. It's been a painfully slow day, and all I can think of is just getting out of class. Mine's been wandering more and more recently. It's as if my ability to concentrate has left me completely. I presume in this sort of alternate ending, we haven't seen Yuri since we last left her, so that's why the MC would be thinking about this or whatnot. I look over at the clock. Class is almost over. There's a meeting for a club afterwards. Not that I'm looking forward to it. Even there, my mind has wandered. I haven't managed to start a new book. Not only that, but as a club, we all decided to drop the talent show. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. So this ending may actually go on for a bit because, I figured ultimately my initial theory was that all the endings would converge on the talent show, but that definitely doesn't seem to be the case because in the original one ending, or like what happens in the original ending is that the MC makes up with like Yuri or whatnot, and ultimately they go through with the talent show and Yuri ultimately performs and it's a success or whatnot. But given that they dropped in here, this is opens like completely new doors as opposed to, let's say, them doing the talent show or failing or Yuri just immediately dying. But now that we know it goes on without the talent show, I think that's very interesting. Yuri told Monica she didn't want to partake in it. Therefore, he canceled our performance. But that makes sense, though, given she ultimately didn't end up, or she didn't make up with the MC or whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but it's also very interesting that it holds a lot of potential for what can happen now. Everything started to fall apart. People won't get any better from here on out. I'm just ready for this day to be over. Yeah, this was really interesting. This is actually really interesting. I thought the endings would be kind of boring, like, oh, it would end at the black screen and say, like, oh, Yuri died or something. Or, like, even if all the endings did converge on the talent show, it may just ultimately be whether it succeeds or fails, which would be kind of boring. But given that they've actually put thought into sort of these alternate endings and where they could possibly go and the potential they hold, I think that's a really good thing they've done. The bell finally rings. Gather my things and make my way out of the classroom. Again, this model is just basically superior to Fallen Angel in nearly every retrospect. I'm not even sure why I'm bothering at the club anymore. It doesn't have the same environment that it used to. Since you and I separated, it's as if the whole club as well. Because the thing is, everyone really was behind them. Like, Sayori was the first one who knew, and ultimately the other two girls as well were really behind the MC and Yuri or whatnot. So obviously, it's going to have an effect if they aren't, like, together anymore or whatnot. We don't get into arguments or anything like that, but none of us can really hold a conversation anymore. It's like we're not even friends anymore. Club is now just a place to kill time. At least that's how it feels to me. It's almost depressing in a way. Whatever, let's just get this over with. So is there going to be, like, some sort of, like, thing that happens? As I don't find Yuri saying her a normal spot. Because ultimately, this isn't just going to be like, oh, it's not just like a vision of what happens when they separate. It's a legitimate ending to the mod. So we'll ultimately need to see what happens with that. She's been here just about every day this week. Maybe the club's environment is too much for her as well. Not just that, but Yuri and I haven't spoken to each other since we separated. That's what I was wondering. I'm like, it's making it seem as though he hasn't really seen her, or at least interacted with her since. At least the rest of the girls are here. Monica and Sayori greet me like usual. Natsuki reads her manga. Plop down in my seat without care. Raw book to read, but I just can't be bothered to read it. Reading hasn't been the same without Yuri. Nothing has, really. Yeah, so, lay my head down on the desk. Suppose I'll just rest until club ends. But I mean, I'm actually curious how this is going to end, because, like, there's got to be some sort of tangible ending. So I wake up from my nap. I feel a light tap on my shoulder. Looking from behind me, I find Sayori standing there. Hi, MC. Hey, Sayori. I know I should ask her how she's feeling, but her expression says it all. MC. I know it sounds silly to say, but thank you. For what? Just for everything. For being my friend, giving this club a chance, everything. I know things haven't been the same since your separation with Yuri, but it'll get better over time. Even if the club's spirit has gone downhill, just know I'm happy you gave it a chance. All of a sudden, Sayori hugs me. Because, yeah, she was really the one sort of behind or pushing for the MC and Yuri or whatnot. If not for her sake, the MC's sake or whatnot. Because we ultimately know her issues weren't really relevant or not even existent in this mod. Great friend, MC. Can't do anything but hug her in return. Through all, Sayori and I release each other. Can't build the courage to say thank you to Sayori, but judging by a smile, she understood me. Sayori goes back to her seat. Sit there in silence. Even though I don't know how much more time I'll dedicate to the club before I decide to drop it. I have to admit, it wasn't a mistake coming here. Yeah, because ultimately, that's what he did. He was definitely making it seem like, he's going to drop it or whatnot. And that's ultimately what it goes back to, Sayori at the very beginning of the year or whatnot, getting him to join the club. And ultimately, despite things this is actually I think this is a really good take on this ending. Because, again, my worries, and that was what I said before this, was ultimately that the rest of the endings would be bad endings, where they would all end in sort of like just misery, like someone dying. Or so, they would all end with they would all end negatively, basically. They would all be bad endings. But this ending is more so a neutral take that ultimately, it just didn't work out or whatnot with MC and Yuri. And ultimately, the MC just leaves the club. Like, that's not a bad ending. That's ultimately not a bad ending. Because when I say bad ending, I assume people's lives ruined or someone dies. That's what I mean when I say bad ending. But ultimately, given that the only real ramifications of this ending is that the MC and Yuri separate, they go their own ways, and the MC ultimately leaves the club. That's actually a fairly neutral ending, and I really like that take on that sort of option. Whereas opposed to everything going to shit, it's like, oh, okay, now that they separate, they just go their own ways, and it's everyone has a mutual understanding or whatnot. I think that's a really good take on this. It's what I wasn't expecting because, again, like I said, main worry was that ultimately every other ending besides the one we got would be a bad ending. But given this is a neutral ending, much less one with a really good take, I think this is ultimately really good ending. Like, well, not good because obviously it's neutral, but I really like sort of what they did, the take they took on this ending or whatnot. Take they took, sort of how they took this ending or whatnot. Always remember the good times we shared as a group. Checking my phone, I realize what time it is. Club's now over for the day. Pack up my things and say goodbye. Make my way out into the corridor. Are we? Yeah, I think this is a really interesting take. As I'm walking in the hallway, I notice my throat feels really dry. Should go get something to drink. I head towards the nearest water fountain. Okay. And leave me alone. Okay, this is interesting. This is clearly Yuri and Clyde. They weren't even a thought in my mind at this point, being 100% honest. Like, I really didn't care about them. Honestly, I was more intrigued about, I really like sort of the, I sort of really like their take on this ending. Like I said, I'm just going to keep saying it. It's like a broken record player. But ultimately, like, again, my main worry was that every R ending would be a bad ending. But I really like their take on this ending, where it's more neutral, like mutual understanding. All the parties sort of like agree, where it's like, okay, yeah, we all just go our separate ways or whatnot. But yeah, clearly this is Yuri and Clyde. They haven't done anything. They're about to turn the corner. I hear some commotion in the distance. I stand near the end of the hall, listening to that voice. Is that? You don't have to do this. Yeah, it's Yuri, and I assume the perpetrator is Clyde because we've seen him even before this point. So we've had our own interaction twice, 2 interactions with him at this point. So, or 2 interactions with us by ourselves, and then ultimately us with Yuri at the fountain. Not really counting the festival as an interaction because ultimately we didn't know who he was at the time. Turn the hallway and find Yuri with her sleeves down. Clyde standing in front of her. Her arms are blind. Her cuts appear to be fresh. Yuri skipped the club so she could do this? Okay, because yeah, the MC still has knowledge of Yuri's problems or whatnot. So the MC still ultimately knows what Yuri does. But I guess I'm not sure what he assumed because if she showed up the rest of the week, then I guess, yeah, this really makes sense. I think the initial worry was that ultimately she'd be at home and do something like drastic. But if she's just like, if she's still here, just ultimately not in the club because she needs to do this as opposed to, let's say, something like kill herself in her own house or whatnot, like, then I guess, yeah, I hate to say it, like, it's not as bad of a sign, but ultimately given Clyde's doing something, I mean, that is obviously, this isn't going to end well. I mean, being 100%. I had a feeling all this time you did harm yourself. You really are a freak, on you. Because ultimately, we know the backstory for Clyde is ultimately that he used to have a girlfriend or whatnot, too, that ultimately died. Like, I don't even remember what it was. It was like car accident or some sort of accident that was entirely out of control. And ultimately, sort of, he let that consume him to the point where it's like, okay, he just doesn't really care about anything else. And ultimately, one of the reasons he picks on Yuri and I is supposedly because we remind him of himself and his girlfriend back then. Because ultimately, he sort of he pieced it together really quickly that us and Yuri were a thing, given how we defended her during the festival or whatnot. So that's kind of why he's continuing to pick on Yuri. Now he's gotten to her weakness exposed or whatnot, or she's got sort of, her flaws exposed, which never were exposed in the original ending or in the good ending, what I would say. But yeah, so this is something completely different because, like I said, I mean, I think this has a lot worse potential because initially we were worried that, like, oh yeah, Yuri's at home or whatnot, potentially kills herself, bad ending. And then it went to, oh, it was sort of like mutual understanding. We all went our separate ways or whatnot. And like, then that's like, oh, that's a more neutral ending. And ultimately, we don't really need to worry about Yuri's state as, everyone just kind of does their own thing as opposed to anyone taking drastic measures. But now, given that Clyde's, doing this to Yuri, ultimately that raises up the idea again of a bad ending. This could potentially end poorly given, how this is playing out with Clyde exposing Yuri's own sort of like a self-harm or whatnot. Clyde's group begin laughing. So him and his 2 friends, like, group is in 3 people. Yuri runs away from the group, crying in her hands. She runs past me. I chase after her. Okay, so it'd be interesting to see where this goes then. I eventually catch up to Yuri. Find her hunched over at a bench. She notices me and looks up. Hi, MC. You saw that? Hello. It's like wonderful weather we're having. So, I mean, I don't know where this is going to go now because I assumed it was going to straight up end there with everyone going their own ways, but this could be interesting. I nod. See, I think it's time for me to leave. You want to go home? I can walk with you, Yuri. No, it's okay, MC. I'll be moving on. What do you mean? After giving it some thought, my father, we decided it was best to leave for good. After this semester is over, my father and I are moving. Okay, because this is, wait, no, hold on. This is what I originally, oh my God. So in Fallen Angel, there's a scene or interaction between Yuri and the MC where Yuri says she's like leaving school or whatnot. And then ultimately I figured, oh, it's very likely that it's something out of her control or not her choice. But ultimately they just get into an argument that's completely unrelated to that. But that's for Fallen Angel. In this mod, because we know sort of Yuri's background in this mod is ultimately, this is the one where Yuri's mother died or whatnot. And then this is the one where she was really close to her father, but her father lived in a different place or business or whatnot. And then she has the knife collection, which sort of, that's her connection to her father. But ultimately, you know, if she's having these issues here and the MC can't solve them, it makes complete sense how like she would go with her father or whatnot, especially given like, I mean, yeah, like after this semester is over, given that they're third year or whatnot, that makes it very viable. Because I mean, we haven't heard this before or whatnot. It's not like in this mod where Yuri has mentioned that, oh, she'd be leaving or whatnot. That wasn't ultimately what happened. But still, it makes complete sense here in this situation. What? Let's see, when was this decided? Was Yuri planning to tell us at some point? Can't take it anymore. I need to move on. So painful to be here. Want to start a new life. Wait, you can't, Yuri. I'm sorry, see. This is the only solution I can think of. Moving won't solve anything, Yuri. We can help you. We'll be there for you. Please don't leave us. My plea doesn't seem to be effective. Yuri starts sobbing again. Goodbye, MC. Thanks for everything. She gets up from her seat and starts walking away, not even looking at me. Chase after her. Yuri, wait. She doesn't stop. Yuri continues to walk, pretending I am not there. I eventually catch up to her and turn her around. Okay, this is really interesting. First I thought, you know, it was going to be a bad ending or whatnot. At first, no. First I thought it was going to be a bad ending. Then it switched to a more neutral ending. Then it switched to a bad ending given what was going on between Yuri and Clyde. But given that she really doesn't seem to care at this point, since she knows she's going to move, it's switching to a more neutral ending. Hug Yuri tightly. Yuri, please don't leave. I messed up. I betrayed your trust, and you know why you feel this way. I know we separate, but the truth is, I don't know what I was thinking back then. Listen, this ain't going to work. This ain't going to work, dog. I mean, we know what's going to happen. She's going to be like, no, and then, like, move on, pretty much. Like, this isn't necessarily going to be the case. Please stay, Yuri. Can't lose you again. I'll be right by your side to help you face your problems. We can work this out together. We know she's going to be like, no. Okay, hold on. This is different. Hold on. Yeah, this is like, this is a completely, we haven't seen this background before or whatnot. Listen, Yuri pushes me back. She then gently grabs my face. You can feel the warmth in her hands. Tears continue to form in her eyes. The sleeves have fallen down, revealing her cuts and scars. Yuri stares deeply into my eyes before she speaks again. I'm sorry, MC. I have to do this. This is the best thing I can do for myself. Start to tear up myself. It's painful knowing that this is all my fault. Could have easily fixed this off. I hadn't let go of Yuri. It's all my fault, Yuri. No, MC, it's not your fault. Believe me, I'd like to stay here with you in the club. So right now, it's just not an option. Love you, MC. That's why I'm doing this. You're sobbing. Will I ever see you again, Yuri? No. You have FaceTime? Without saying our word, Yuri, let's go. I mean, you have a number. She turns around and starts walking towards the exit. Stand there until she's no longer visible. There's nothing I can do but cry. I eventually take a seat at the bench. Okay, what happens to Yuri, though? So she actually leaves? So this is how it all ends. Yuri's gone forever. Even though she insisted it was my fault, I know it is. I blame myself. I told Yuri time and time again that I'd be there for her. And I failed her. Let her go and I'll probably never see her again. It's how it has to be. Every choice is a consequence. I missed my chance to make the right one. It's what I'll live with from now on. I'll never forget you. There's no way I could. I'll miss you, Yuri. Okay, so that's the second ending, because presumably it ends here. Is it going to be like, you done screwed up, you picked the wrong ending? Okay, yeah, that was an ending. So that's the second ending. Honestly, I like the take of that ending. Because, like, again, like I've been saying, that was a more neutral ending. My main worry was that all the other endings, well, obviously, the ending still wasn't good. But, like, when I say bad ending, I mean someone's life is ruined or someone dies. You can make the argument that, like, Yuri's life is ruined here, but ultimately it's more so like a new opportunity because ignoring sort of what's happening to her here, she's going to go to another place and completely reinvent herself. What happens here is irrelevant. Even though she leaves the MC, like that could ultimately still be a sort of an inspiration or learning experience for her, and sort of that she can transform herself and do better. I definitely see that as a more neutral ending. And I'm actually glad they took that route.
Because again, like I said, main worry, it would be all bad endings, but this was definitely a more neutral ending. At first, it was definitely neutral, saying like, oh, everyone has sort of like a mutual understanding, and then Yuri, everyone just ultimately sort of goes their own way or whatnot. And then, it seemed like more bad ending, given what ultimately happened with Clyde and Yuri or whatnot, their interaction. But ultimately, Yuri's response just made it seem as though, like, yeah, she really didn't care given she was leaving. I definitely don't think she would have killed herself in that scenario. She straight up really didn't seem to care about, like, what Clyde had to say. She just literally, like, walked away ultimately. Basically, she's like, I really don't care what you think. I'm, like, leaving. Like, this doesn't affect me now. It's like, because it definitely didn't affect her as much as it did prior. But, yeah, so it definitely didn't affect her as much as it did prior. So ultimately, and then obviously after that, given the MC and Yuri sort of parting conversation, that definitely did make it seem like a much more neutral ending, that Yuri's like, oh, I'm sorry, I just can't stay here anymore. I'm going to go and reinvent myself or transform myself or whatnot, but I'll still, like, never forget you or whatnot. That definitely was a more neutral ending where they ultimately went their own ways, but it still seems like a positive for Yuri in a sense, where she'd be able to reinvent and transform herself, as opposed to a negative, which may come as a result of a bad ending. But yeah, ultimately, I think that was so good that they took a neutral route on that. Like, I think that was really good. I would have been, because they could have done all bad endings, and then they'd be like, well, okay, I guess that's expected. Nothing really to surprise there. But given they took a more neutral route, that could arguably seen as a more sort of realistic or more practical solution route, as opposed to sort of the dream of Yuri somehow, like, knocking, like, the shoes off the audience in the theater performance and whatnot. It is definitely, I really like the take they had on that. But also, I already read that in the previous part. But now we need to go for the rest, because that's the second ending. We ultimately don't know. So the second ending is, so depending on what you pick for here, there are two different endings. Whether you say, I'll stay here for you, or whether you leave her. Ultimately here, I assume there's going to be a different ending here as well, whether we check up on Yuri or whether we don't, because ultimately we know what Yuri was going to do, given we checked up on her. So if we don't, ultimately, I think not checking up on Yuri is what would ultimately lead to a bad ending. As opposed to before, where we just simply went our separate ways, this could ultimately lead to something negative. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just being paranoid. It was a dream after all. Yuri's fine, I'm sure. Sorry for making it a big deal. It's okay, MC. We understand that you're worried about Yuri. She'll get back to you, I'm sure of it. I think she's just taking some time for herself. Yeah, you're right, Monica. So is there anything else planned for today? Nope, I think we're good. You guys are free to go if you want. Are you ready to go, Sayori? Okay, so this is interesting, because the issue is we went to see Yuri immediately after we made that choice. But ultimately, we were let out otherwise. So, like, regardless of whether we barged out or not, we would have still left, given the club ended or whatnot. But it's, as opposed to going to see Yuri this time, we're simply staying with Sayori or whatnot. So that's ultimately what's detracting from us, as opposed to, staying at the club being like a mandatory thing or whatnot. I think that's very interesting. Sayori and I pack up our things and we leave the club room together. I definitely think that's very interesting. The walk is quiet for the most part. Sayori and I lightly discuss how the poem preparations have been going. Sayori couldn't be more enthusiastic if she tried. It's going well, actually. I think I'll do even better than last time. That's good to hear. Happy for you, Sayori. Thanks. I guess I'll see you tomorrow, MC. Yep, have a good night, Sayori. Sayori walks home. I enter my house shortly after. Okay, so we're not going to check up on Yuri. I was hoping that, okay, maybe what we do is we walk home with Sayori. Because like I said, regardless of whether regardless of whether we barged out or not, we were still free to go. Like, it wasn't like we were stuck there, which is actually very interesting. But ultimately, as opposed to going to see Yuri immediately, we walked home with Sayori. And I was kind of hoping, okay, maybe after we walk home with Sayori, we go and see Yuri, and maybe by then she's completely mangled her arm or whatnot. But now that we're just chilling in our house, this is kind of a bad sign, given Yuri has the whole night to herself, as opposed to, let's say, us just simply, like, seeing her later as opposed to earlier. So upstairs in my bedroom and change my clothes. Feeling tired, I'll lie down in my bed. What a day. Maybe I should get some rest. Thankfully, it doesn't take much time for me to fall asleep. Today has been a really stressful day, so I'm glad I was able to fall asleep as quickly as I did. Okay, that's not a good sign, given as opposed to just seeing her later rather than earlier. We're not going to see her at all during the day. I wake up. Time reads 10:37 p.m. Check my phone. Still nothing. Why hasn't Yuri responded yet? It's pretty late, so maybe she's asleep. Then again, she hasn't said anything back to me all day today. You know what? I can't take this anymore. I can't stop thinking about it until I know for certain Yuri's okay. Even if that was a dream, I am the club. I need to find out why Yuri isn't responding. I'm honestly scared at this point. Quickly grabbing a jacket, I held out the front door. Okay, this is a bad sign given, because by later rather than earlier, I mean, we walk home with Sayuri and then we go to see Yuri, and then we go to see Yuri afterwards, just sort of because we have nothing else to do. And that would maybe result in us getting to Yuri's like 30 to 45 minutes later, and ultimately by that point, it would make sense where, her arm would be entirely mangled, and ultimately we'd have to deal with that on top of everything else. Like I said, seeing her later as opposed to earlier. But given it's like 5-6 hours later, that's a completely different story as opposed to 30 or 45 minutes. Like I don't say, I'm suspicious of this. I start writing at top speed to get to Yuri's house. I don't foresee anything good at coming out of this. As opposed to a previous ending, which is neutral, I don't see any sort of good coming out of this one. I haven't ran like this in a while. Makes me realize how out of shape I am. This is actually similar audio that oh my God. I realized something. Hold on. Okay. Oh my God. So hold on. What did he say? He said, I haven't ran like this in a while. Makes me realize how out of shape I am. If we go to, oh my God, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. Because if here we pick check on Yuri, or if here we check on Yuri, we say, it's the same dialogue. I start running at top speed to get to Yuri's house. I haven't ran like this for some time. It makes me realize how out of shape I am. And then here we see Yuri. And then here we go into Yuri's room here. Like I'm just going to speak like this because I want to show. So here we go into Yuri's room and we see Yuri like this, right as she's about to cut herself or whatnot. However, ultimately what I want to show is that's the same dialogue. I start running top speed to get to her house. I haven't run like this in a long time. It makes me realize how out of shape I am. So I'm thinking, it's going to be the exact same scene. But ultimately, there has to be a different ending. So given it's the exact same dialogue, the exact same scene playing, just the only difference being it's taking place 5 to 6 hours later within the context of the game or whatnot, I ultimately think there has to be a different ending to this given first off, they wouldn't just put the same scene. Second off, like I said, given it's 5 to 6 hours later and they're using the exact same text as prior, you have to think, okay, there needs to be some difference to this. That difference will likely be how it ends. So just we've already had to censor this mod before. Ultimately, we may need to do it again given if what I foresee is true. I finally make it. Knock on the door and patiently wait for an answer. Nothing. Try opening the door. To my surprise, the door is unlocked. Is there any reason Yuri would leave it unlocked? No time to question it. I enter Yuri's house. This is literally the exact same text as prior. I don't see anything. I don't foresee anything good out of this. I think the ending's going to be different, and we know given it's different, it ultimately needs to be bad. I mean, don't foresee anything good coming out of this. It's pitch black. Find the light switch next to the door on the wall. Start walking through the house. It's quiet. Yuri, it's MC. Are you here? We got to check her bedroom or whatnot because that's where she was prior. That's where it'll differ. There's nothing to be heard except for a sound of my own breathing. I decide to check the living room. Or maybe it'll jump scare us or whatnot. Should probably turn down the volume. Yuri? She's not here either. Well, it's late in the evening. Yuri's probably sleeping. I make my way to her bedroom instead. I'm saving it here. I predicted something bad happening in the original. But I mean, given something happened good, given that something good happened, and now it's the exact same text, and given that the ending needs to differ, I don't think anything good happens now. I think ultimately this is the bad ending here. I don't think I'm worried about what we'll have to see. I may need to censor this, or I may need to put like a warning or whatnot. I did that for Fallen Angel too, but I mean, I didn't need to straight up censor this. This is the mod that I need to straight up censor. So, I mean, whatever is about to come might ultimately be graphic, and I might need to show a censored version or whatnot. Knock on the door. Yuri, I'm here. Nothing. Even if it's an invasion of privacy, I do so anyway. Open the door. Okay, hold on. Not gonna click yet. Okay. I think we all know what's coming here. We just need to get it over with. But what I'm going to say is that this is likely going to be graphic. I don't think there's any way around it. There's no sidestepping it. What's about to come, ultimately, not good. Like, it'll be graphic. You'll likely be seeing a censored version. But anyway, here we go. It's completely dark. I try to find the light switch. Found it. I flip it on. That's actually not that bad. I was expecting way worse. But I mean, because this is presumably what? Well, first off, I assume she's dead at this point, given she did this, what, like 5-6 hours ago? Like, yeah, I mean, that's a long time. So this is presumably just like the actual ending in the Act 2 of the game or whatnot. I mean, yeah, I assume it's just like the Act 2 ending of the. This is basically, yeah, it literally is the Act 2 ending of the legitimate, like, actual game or whatnot. But I mean, yeah, ultimately, yeah, she's dead. Like, I don't think anyone, given it happened 5-6 hours ago, like I mentioned, I don't think anyone's going to argue that, like, she's alive. I mean, miraculously she could be, but ultimately, likely not. But yeah, it's what happened. No. My legs feel weak. Can't believe it. Yuri, I'm in complete shock. Yuri's lifeless body lies up against her bed, blood-stained knife at her side. Wrists have been deeply cut into. She went horizontal, though. She's covered in blood. Her face is pale from the amount of blood loss. There's nothing I can do but stare, bursting in tears as I fall on my knees. Yuri, pound the ground angrily with my fist. It's my fault. It's all my fault. This could have been prevented if I came sooner. Yuri'd still be alive. Let this happen. I look up. There's something on Yuri's bed. Looks like a note. Okay, that's a death note. Or like a will or whatnot. Pulling myself together, stand up and walk over to Yuri's bed. I open the note. Oh, Jesus. That's. Oh. Oh, that was just her name or whatnot. Yeah, there we go. As I read the note, I continue to cry. Because, yeah, I mean, ultimately, I thought it'd be a lot worse, given that we've had censors before, granted, for other reasons. I thought it would take, like, a salvation route, or just make the death scene, like, as brutal as possible. That's what I was really worried about. But ultimately, they didn't do that. They made it a lot more serene, like the actual Act 2 ending of the game or whatnot. I mean, but yeah, I think it makes much more sense, though, because it's more so, like, as opposed to shock factor, it just makes sense for Yuri's character or whatnot. So ultimately, yeah, this is the bad ending we're talking about. We had the neutral ending. This is the bad one. Tears begin to drip from my face onto the note. Feels as though I've been stabbed myself. Yuri, the only girl I've ever loved, is gone. I drop the note, fall on my knees once again, and slowly lie on the ground in despair. I mean, presumably it's going to end here, because I'm not sure what more they can do after. So I sit there completely helpless. I begin reminiscing about Yuri, all the time we spent together in the club. Oh, they actually are having a flashback. Flashback. You a fan of oolong TMC? I actually never had before, but I do enjoy tea. Sure, I'll like it though. Yuri smiles as she pours tea into my cup. Yeah, he's actually having flashbacks. Good times we shared. I was just thinking, this was during the festival. See a lot of couples interact in certain ways. Some hug, some kiss. Right. I was kind of hoping that we could, maybe hold hands. Sure, I'd love to. Yeah, because that was right after a festival. The bad times that they managed to struggle through. And yeah, this is when she revealed to the MC that she was kind or whatnot. Would it help if I came with you? And that's regarding therapy or whatnot. We both release each other. Yuri wipes away her tears. You would do that for me? Without doubt, Yuri. Here for you. I don't care how long it takes. And this is the same interaction. I want to see you get better. How it all led to this. I failed you, Yuri. Never take it back. I look over at Yuri again. My eyes then land on the knife. I can't. Oh, please, oh my God, they're going the freaking Romeo and Juliet route. Okay, they lost my interest at this point, because I was actually hoping, an interesting take on this would be the MC would need to live on with this, but okay, no, I'm not going to spoil anything for Fallen Angel or whatnot, but I mean, dang, so, well, maybe we'll get a choice whether to kill ourselves or not here, because I ultimately think not doing that would ultimately be a much more interesting take, that ultimately we need to live with the consequences of sort of our decisions and whatnot, or our lack of decision, our sort of, what would you call it? Our lack of action. Breathing heavily through my stomach. I get up and walk over to Yuri. Kneeling down, slowly pick up the knife. We really doing this, dog? I mean, seriously, like, I really want a choice in this. I want to see what the MC would do if he had to live with the consequences or whatnot. I think that'd be a lot more interesting, but ultimately, it's seeming like that's not going to happen. Slowly raise it to my chest. We'll be together again, Yuri. Promise. Close my eyes. Really? Like, dead ass? You're seriously doing this? Goodbye, everyone. Sayori. Monka. Natsuki. He's. Wait, hold on. No, that's just the same sound from Act 2, Yuri's death scene or whatnot. Honestly, I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of that. I think it would be a lot more interesting if they I think it'd be a lot more interesting if they took the take that, like, oh, the MC would need to live with the consequences of his decision or lack of action and whatnot, as opposed to just him clapping himself here or whatnot. I mean, oh, drop the knife and let the metal hit, and the metal blade hits the floor with a loud clang. Life slowly drains from my body as I fall around to the bed, then sit up against the bed, right next to Yuri. A vision begins to fade as I take one final look at her. Sorry, Yuri. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That would have been a much more interesting take if, they had the MC live as opposed to kill himself. I think that'd be a lot more interesting. But ultimately, that's not what happened. Because, I mean, like, in this mod, as opposed to Fallen Angel, the MC actually cares and thinks about the other characters. It's not like he completely cuts them out of his life. So I'd say this ending really doesn't make that much sense. I mean, being 100% honest. Like, I don't think this is sort of realistic. I think it'd be more realistic for the MC to sort of ultimately live with the consequences of his decisions. And I think that'd be a lot more interesting as opposed to go the Romeo and Juliet route. But I mean, ultimately, I think there's more endings. There may potentially be more endings because these endings simply came from the last two decisions or whatnot. So presumably there's more, at least one more hidden somewhere through the decisions at the beginning or whatnot. Or at the very least, even if there isn't, we're going to go through our decisions anyway, just to see sort of the dialogue or whatnot. Yeah, because that's one of the best parts about mods where you can actually pick. Like, besides, this is the only mod we've played that has had multiple. Well, technically the festival has, but yeah, this is the only mod we've played where there's been multiple endings or whatnot. I think this is very interesting. This is really good or whatnot. But yeah, because as opposed to our mods where you simply have our choices, where the dialogue will just alter slightly. Like, some of the decisions earlier in the game could ultimately affect these final two decisions. Because ultimately, the final two decisions we make have 3 different endings or whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, there's that. So, all right, so, and there's no, hold on, what'd be interesting is if he gave a message, or if he gave a different message for each ending, but that's not the case. So we need to find them all ourselves. So we've gotten 3 endings. The good ending, obviously, which is the main story ending. We had a more neutral ending where Yuri and the MC cut ties, or not even necessarily cut ties, where Yuri and the MC go their separate ways. And ultimately, again, I think that's a more neutral ending because I think that gives Yuri the opportunity to transform or like reinvent herself. It's not necessarily an inherently bad ending like this one, where they take the Romeo and Juliet route. But yeah, so what's the next previous decision before then? So ultimately, what is this? Don't skip it. Oh no, that is, oh my god. This is for the freaking nudity scene or whatnot. So let's not do that. Come over, don't come over. Okay, so this is interesting because what this is this is regarding earlier in the mod when the MC was sick and he could choose to have Yuri come over and care for him or whatnot. I think we're going to say don't, yeah, we said come over in the original, but we're going to say don't come over here. And ultimately, this may actually have an effect on the rest of the game. Either that or it's simply another choice. I appreciate that she wants to help, but I don't want her getting sick as well. Just take some time for myself and get better. That way we can have an even better date when I'm feeling well. I don't think it's a good idea, Yuri. I feel like it'd be better if you just stayed home. Are you sure? Yeah, I'll be fine. I just need some time to recover. Promise we'll do something when I get better. Okay, MC. No hurt feelings. Just let me know if you need anything. I'm here for you. And here's sadness in your voice. Oh, so this is on the phone. I thought this was text, but so yeah, it's on the phone then. So yeah, I'm interested to see if this will lead to something potentially different. I know she really wants to see me, but I feel this is for the best. Thank you, Yuri. Love you. Love you too. Get well soon. Phone call ends, and I must stay in my bed. I hate to do this, but I feel it's necessary. Well, if I'm going to get better, I might as well take some medicine. The struggle get up from the bed, make my way downstairs to the kitchen. I'm interested, though. Look in the cabinets for anything that might help. Find some cold medicine. Should do a trick. Measure out the medicine. I'll need and pour it in a small measuring cup. I gulp it down. Forgot how nasty this was. Regardless, it should help. Grab a glass of water in case I get thirsty and head back upstairs to my bedroom. Let's see. I get back in bed and wrap myself in my covers. The effects of the medicine will make me drowsy. Should be able to sleep off most of my cold. Turn on the TV and watch one of my favorite shows for a while. Feeling tired, I slowly start to drift off. I think this is interesting because this could potentially lead to something different. Let's see. It's late in the afternoon. I wake up, turn off the TV, and go over to my desk. I feel inspired, so I should go ahead and get started on my assignment. Take now a clean sheet of paper and a pen. I begin writing. My inspiration should come as no surprise. So, but that's the same though. Warning. Hold on. Okay, so yeah, because that leads into this decision. Ultimately, that didn't change though, right? Because if we say this, ultimately she still comes over or whatnot, and it's still, hold on, it still goes to that dialogue or whatnot. Yeah, but it still goes to that dialogue, right? Because, yeah, obviously, yeah, he drifts off or whatnot. And then he wakes up, or he still wakes up or whatnot. Yeah, he wakes up and goes to his desk. So regardless of whether Yuri comes over or not, you still write the assignment or whatnot. So I think ultimately that choice didn't really have an impact. But, I mean, granted, we could obviously come back later or try and make it through the next scene or whatnot and see if it has any actual impact, like far later in the game. But at least, regardless of whether she comes over or not, it has no immediate impact on the game. So we may come to that later, but yeah. So what about this or whatnot? Okay, this is a choice that I think has an interesting, that may have an interesting sort of result. So this is when, what is it? Clyde and his two friends were like, where they were harassing us and whatnot. And we ultimately chose to ignore them for the original. And then we do ignore them and just, go back to the club. Nothing else happens. Nothing else happens until he confronts us with Yuri in the public space and like shoves her in a fountain or whatnot. But I think confronting them could have an interesting outcome. Obviously, you picked ignore them before, and I think that is the better decision. But I think confronting them could have some interesting consequences. Confront the group of students may not be the best idea, but I don't care. Not afraid of them. Refuse to let them talk that way about Yuri. Stop filling up the picture and face them. Hey, the students turn in my direction. Well, look who we have here. It's MC. Yeah, how's it going, MC? Because here's the thing, though. They confront us regardless. Like, we actually turn to leave, and then they talk to us. But ultimately, we keep going or whatnot. But given we're confronting them, it actually may just be the same dialogue, if anything. But I'm thinking there could be some potential. There could be some interesting repercussions as a result. Still protecting that girl of yours. Walk up to the student. He instantly recognizes me from the performance. You have some nerve talking about Yuri that right. Okay, so yeah, this is completely different dialogue. So ultimately, I think there may be some interesting repercussions as a result from this. Frankly, I don't appreciate it. Ooh, looks like you better run, Clyde. Okay, yeah, because now this is how we know his name is Clyde. What are you going to do about it? I'd prefer if we could just go our separate ways, admissibly. Why are you even defending her to begin with? Don't you understand she's a freak? Maybe you see her that way, but where she's at right now, I'd say she's easily above you in terms of character. Clyde laughs in my con, honestly, MC. Even for a loser like you can do better than her. Feel my grip on the pitcher tightening as I hold it close to my chest. This is what I mean. Tried to be nice about that, but it didn't work. I was honestly interested with this comment, like Clyde saying, don't you understand she's a freak? Because ultimately, given that we know the backstory about Clyde, this is very interesting, given we know he actually sees himself and his old girlfriend or whatnot, who's currently dead, in us in the MC. So ultimately, that could be sort of him almost reaching out in a sense for like an explanation from the MC to try and like sort of change his mind. But ultimately the MC, as opposed to saying something like, you may view her that way, but it doesn't matter to me. I still like love her or something. He says like, she's above you in character, which ultimately I really think the MC should have seen something like, he should have said something like, you may see her that way, but I don't care or something like I still love her or whatnot, as opposed to saying, I'd say she's easily above you, so she's easily above you, because that's more like confrontational. Now that kind of only just secured Clyde's sort of treatment of the MC and Yuri. At this point, I'm livid. I take the picture and splash some water on Clyde. Okay, yeah, this is what I mean. There's going to be, because this is definitely going to end differently now that the MC actually did something. There's definitely going to be some repercussions, as opposed to whether or not Yuri comes over. This will ultimately lead to something different. Take the pitcher and splash some more on Clyde. He's surprised at first, but then punches me in the gut. I drop the pitcher and fall to my knees. He then pushes me onto the ground. I lie on the ground, aching with pain. I don't understand this. Like, how does he get the jump and then he still gets, like, punched in the gut? That makes zero sense. I mean, here's the thing. Like, if you throw a pitcher of water on, like, let's say you're getting in a confrontation with someone. You have a pitcher of water. You throw it on them. You're going to expect some sort of counterattack, right? Like, I mean, they're not just going to sit there with water. Then they may react shocked or whatnot, but ultimately, if you do that, you're not really going to be focused on the water. Because ultimately, the motion is just like you have a pitcher of water, you just like extend your hand or whatnot, and the water goes on them. You can't really control that. What you're thinking about is like sort of how they'll respond. So like if he just didn't see anything coming, if he thought he was going to be like, bro, why'd you like throw water on me? Like he really should have been thinking in terms of like his counterattack or whatnot. You're asking about my counter and looks me in the eyes. Don't ever do that again. You're lucky it was just water. Okay, honestly, what is that even supposed to mean? Like, you're lucky it was just water. What else would it be? That's honestly a weird ass comment from Clyde. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, what's he even trying to say there? Like, I thought he threatened him. Like, if you do, like, I'll make sure you'll never live to see the end of it, or something like that. As opposed to saying you're lucky it's just water and then walking off. Like, what does that even mean? Like, what else would it be? Like, come on, fellas. MC has some cleaning to do. Let's leave him to it. The students leave me on the ground, so they start walking down the hall. Slowly get up and compose myself. My gut still hurts from the impact. Was that decision of confronting them really not going to have an impact? There's water all over the floor, and the janitor's nowhere to be found. I go to the bathroom, take some paper towels, and start cleaning up the spilled water. Fill the paper towels in a nearby trash can. I then go up and fill a pitcher again. Finish and start walking back to the club room. Okay, so that decision, that probably wasn't the best course of action. I tried my best to stay calm, but they brought out the anger in me. I don't understand why they have such disdain for Yuri. I've already wasted enough time. I enter the classroom once again. Okay, here's the thing, though. I head over to Yuri, who is patiently waiting for me for my return. Ultimately, we can't skip this, though, so there's still probably new stuff. There you are. I'm starting to worry. Now everything's all right. Here you go, Yuri. Carefully hand her the pitcher. Thank you, MC. She starts brewing the water. She then looks at me. MC, are you okay? Kind of zoned out for a moment. Oh, yeah, I just have a bit of a headache. I hate lying to Yuri, but I feel it's for the best. Because this is the same excuse he used prior or whatnot, when he just ignored them. They were still on his mind or whatnot. I got still aches with pain, but I try and play it off. The guy is a hell of a punch. I mean, he really should have been looking for the count. Like, he should have really expected the counterattack, though. I mean, well, maybe this will help you with that. Yuri finishes making a tea and hands me my cup. Thank you. Anything for you, MC. If your head's hurting, do you want to take it easy instead? I don't want you to have a hard time concentrating. No, I think I'll manage. Maybe it'll help me take my mind off it. All right, are you sure? I'm sure. Okay, just let me know if you want to take a break at some point. I nod to Yuri. Yuri and I stay on the floor, up against the wall. We assume our normal ream position and enjoy our time together. We start feeling calm again. I won't let that whole situation ruin my time with Yuri. Okay, I think the skip option will be available. Okay, everyone. I think that'll conclude today's meeting. See you guys tomorrow. Because normally the skip option would be a thing when there's no new dialogue, but ultimately that's not seemingly the case. Catch you guys later. See you tomorrow, Marco. You and I walk home together. Maybe he tells her what he did or whatnot in this, as opposed to, because he doesn't do that in the original version, I don't think. Or if we ignore them, I don't think he tells them, or he tells her about his interaction with them. Ultimately, they obviously have an interaction with Clyde later, but this could actually potentially affect that. Thanks for walking me home, MC. Happy to do it. See you later, Yuri. See you as well. That's it. I hug Yuri goodbye and I walk home. I'm wondering if this is going to the entire way back. My mind keeps laying on those students. Why are they doing this? What would drive them to be like that? Shouldn't be worrying about it, honestly. I just hope that will be the last time I have to deal with it. Continue walking and finally reach my house. Let's see. Head a long day. I should just go to bed. I have to try and take my mind off today. But the skip button isn't coming back, though. Like, that's my issue. Act 2, Chapter 6, Sick Day. Okay, so there it is. There's the skip button. The screen's black. Okay, here's what I'm interested in though. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is irrelevant. So actually, we can do come over just because we did that in the original. Ultimately, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see whether or not we confront Clyde, whether that has an impact on our later interaction with Yuri. And ultimately, as a control group, I'm just going to say come over because ultimately that's what we said in the original when we ignored him or whatnot. So just to make sure nothing else changes. So yeah, we can still skip through us or whatnot. Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested because that'd be a pretty nice Easter egg if this, whether or not, we confront them has an impact later. Also, yeah, skip it or whatnot. I don't want to have to censor this, and we already know what happens. Snow day. Really? Oh my God. So I can't skip this. A few days passed and my cold's finally gone away. I get up from my bench stretch. Start getting ready for school. All of a sudden I get a message on my phone. It's from Sayori. Hey MC, there's no school okay. And unfortunately I can't skip this though. I mean, well I guess because we're gonna skip the nudity scene or whatnot, just because I don't want to censor it again. Like I've already shown it in one of the previous ones. Don't remember which part it is. I'm not even gonna read this. I mean, but yeah, I really am interested to see if this ultimately affects our interaction later with Clyde. That'd be a pretty cool Easter egg or whatnot. Because we ultimately know that's sort of we need to skip to there. But ultimately, because I can't skip now, I just need to click through this. But I mean, yeah, because presumably, at least immediately, that didn't change anything, but that could change our interaction with him later. That's what I'm thinking. Like, it's everything. Yeah, I really am interested ultimately. Like, I think that'd be a nice sort of, like I said, Easter egg where that changes our later interaction with Clyde. Obviously, we're going to skip all the nudity or whatnot, just because I don't want to like re-censor or whatnot. I guess I could, but like it doesn't really make sense. Just saying. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm just okay. Now that we're here, I'm just gonna spam click because I can't skip. We've already done this whole interaction. There's nothing new. Like ultimately, the only thing that'll be new is skipping the actual scene. But I mean, the interactions, at least it's all the same or whatnot. I mean, like. Okay, yeah, because this is actually interesting because this is where she shows us she sort of reveals her cutting or whatnot. Yeah, this is where she reveals her kind of. So this is actually a very pertinent scene. Ultimately, I don't think us confronting Clyde has any impact on this. But like I said, I think ultimately, it may have an impact later during our other confrontation with Clyde or Clyde's confrontation with us and Yuri. I mean, yeah, that's just mainly what I'm sort of figuring out. Unfortunately, I can't skip this, given I chose to skip the nudity or whatnot, because I don't want to re-censor it again. So I'm also interested to see what specifically they'll do. But ultimately, yeah, this is very interesting. I don't think this will have a different ending, more so than just potentially being a different interaction. Ultimately, I think there's only one more potential different ending, and that could ultimately be like a hidden ending if we just straight up never go to the club or whatnot. Yeah, and then this is obviously that scene or whatnot. So, yeah, and then obviously, I don't think we don't even have a choice here. Like, there's no choice about whether or not like we embrace Yuri or whatnot. I mean, let's see. Yeah, and ultimately, this is what happens or whatnot. Let's see. I mean, yeah, I really don't care about this. I'm mainly just interested in our later interaction with Clyde. This video may go on. Yeah, this video may go on longer than I anticipated because I really am going to try and get all the endings done. Okay, yeah, they just straight up don't show the picture then. I mean, yeah, they just straight up don't show the picture here. I guess, I mean, that makes sense. I'm not sure what I expected, but. Or maybe, no, because this is about to. Okay, yeah, they just straight up skip it. I mean, like, because I was like, was that prior? No, that wasn't. Okay, yeah, so lonely reading session. Okay. So this is ultimately when Yuri doesn't show up the first, like, couple of days or whatnot. Okay, yeah. So this is the first day where she uses the sick excuse. We ultimately don't go see her because we believe her and we have no real actual reason to be otherwise or to believe otherwise. the next time we can skip, though, we should ultimately see, or the next time Yuri doesn't show up, it's after actually our interaction with, what is it? Okay, this is here then. So actually, yeah, this is, I actually stopped it right before, I think. No, actually, hold on. So, yeah, it's soon after this where we have our second interaction with Clyde, because ultimately Yuri's second, what is it? Because Yuri's second day where she doesn't show up, ultimately that's due to Clyde. And if we don't show up, that's ultimately when she makes the decision to off herself or whatnot. If we don't show up and prevent her from doing so, because yeah, we should reach the background. See someone in the distance, Clyde. Yeah, because I mean, I don't think this will change, but what I think may potentially change is the interaction itself. Is because we have like a fake out interaction where we see him, but we ultimately just, he doesn't see us, and then we leave or whatnot. But ultimately, he still comes back and we have an interaction here or whatnot. But I'm interested to see whether it'll change. Let's see. Yeah, so this is Clyde. It isn't the two lovebirds, Romeo and Juliet. Oh my God, because they do actually pull Romeo and Juliet if we don't end up checking on her where she dies and then we heal ourselves or whatnot. But I mean, yeah. So I'm in. So far, it's only we can skip, which means there should be no new dialogue. But I mean, ultimately, I'm just gonna go through this scene just to see if anything changes, depending on whether we confront him or ignore him earlier. What are you guys up to? And honestly, I'm not gonna try it for whether or not we have her come over or whatnot. Because ultimately, I don't think that changes anything. Reading poetry to each other? How cute. What do you want? Nothing. I'm just saying hello. I'm not allowed to do that? Look, we're trying to practice for an event. Could you please just leave us alone? Gives me a sinister smile. Oh, sure. How rude of me. I'll leave you guys to it then. He starts to walk off. All of a sudden, he trips into Yuri, causing her to fall backwards into a fountain. Everyone in the courtyard now has their attention on us. Yuri. He regains his balance. I look at him angrily. Oh, I'm sorry. It was just an accident. Honestly. He then walks off. Okay, so nothing changed in our second interaction with him, depending on whether or not we confront him or ignore him. Maybe something will ultimately happen during the final performance, though, because we have an interaction with Clyde during the final performance. So that may ultimately change depending on what we do. I'm just going to try. I ultimately don't think it will, but given I can just skip the rest of this, yeah, given the rest of this, given I can just skip it, I think it's fine. Check on Yuri. So yeah, obviously we go here. Yeah, I mean, so obviously, we catch Yuri if we don't just wait. And then, yeah, we say we're here for you. And then ultimately, we go to the end. Yeah, and then 3 weeks later is the performance. And ultimately, that's the good ending. But I want to see if our interaction with Clyde in that ending is ultimately different. Oh, hold on. Oh, yeah, because I'm like, hold on, we're actually getting there really quickly. Okay, yeah, so yeah, obviously we still see Clyde or whatnot. Nothing changes. But I want to see if our private interaction with him in the club changes, depending on whether we initially confront him otherwise, as opposed to ignoring it. Let's see. Yeah, because I'm thinking, I don't think this is obviously won't be a different ending, but ultimately, I think there may be some slightly different dialogue. Very low chance, but just given I could have skipped this all, it literally took me like a couple minutes. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, now we see Clyde or whatnot. Immediately upon entering the club room, I feel uncomfortable. It's him again. He's staying at a desk, filling with a pencil. He looks in our direction. Hey, it's for horses. Case reference for the fallen angel. What do you want now, Clyde? Why can't you just... Yeah, he's like, I'm sorry. I want to see whether this interaction will change. Excuse me? I'm sorry. For everything. Look over at Yuri. Just like me, she appears to be very confused. For everything he's done to her, why all of a sudden does he have a change of heart? What makes you think we should just forgive you? How do we know if you've been being sincere at all? I completely understand why you wouldn't want to. I wouldn't even forgive myself. And like I said, his apology is sincere, because if it wasn't at that point, he would be something like predictable as always, or he would like be snarky if he was just using it as like a fake or whatnot, or a front. But I mean, given they sort of push back saying like, oh, why should we forgive you? His response to that shows it's genuine. Feel bad for even coming here. Now you hate my guts and never want to see me again, but I felt that I should explain myself if I may. I patiently waits for an answer, continuing to twirl with his pencil. Yuri nods at me, begrudgingly motioned for him to continue. A few years ago, I had a girlfriend. She's my best friend. I loved her. Loved her so much. I begins to tear up as he explains himself. Unfortunately, she died in a car accident during a trip. That was the last time I ever saw her. I haven't felt the same since her death. I always blame myself for her passing. Spent many nights just wishing I could have her back. At least long enough to tell her how much she meant to me. Look, I'm really sorry about what happened to your girlfriend, but what exactly does this have to do with you mistreating Yuri? This is actually a very good window into Fallen Angel or whatnot, because I guess I was just jealous, huh? This has just pained me to see you guys so happy. There's one thing that's missing from my life. I always try to hide the fact that I was sad. In the end, I became something that I'm not proud of. Lost many people that are close to me because of my actions. I remained silent for a brief moment, collecting his thoughts. Seeing you perform, Yuri, made me realize what a horrible person I was being to you and many others. You're a very talented person, and I try to make everyone see you as the opposite. Wish I could take back everything I did. Look, I know what I did was wrong. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to understand. To hearing Clyde explain himself, I couldn't help but feel a little sorry for him. Yet what he did to Yuri was inexcusable, but his apology felt genuine. That's what matters, though, ultimately. She looks at Clyde and smiles. I forgive you. Clyde looks up at Yuri. You do? I know what it's like to lose someone that's close to you, because she lost her mother. It's not an easy thing to get over, and they can relate in that aspect. It's all in the past, though. You can't let her death affect you. It wasn't your fault, Clyde. What was her name, if you don't mind me asking? Molly. What a beautiful name. Clyde and Bonnie and Clyde. That'd actually be really funny. Molly wouldn't want you to blame yourself. I'm sure she'd want you to move on and grow from it. Don't you agree? Clyde nods in agreement. I know what you did was wrong, but I forgive you. However, can you forgive yourself? He thinks for a moment. He then looks at me. It's okay, I forgive you too. Faintly smiles. I thank you guys. I don't deserve it, but thank you. From here on, I'm going to be a different person. That's what Molly would want from me. Clyde gets up front of the scene. I guess I see you guys around then? Yeah, I guess you will. He offers me his hand. I shake it in return. Then turns to Yuri. Thank you, Yuri. It means a lot. She nods to him and he exits the club room. Okay, so nothing changed then with either our second or third interaction with him, depending on whether we confront him or ignore him. I guess that's kind of what I expected, but, I just needed to see or whatnot. So which interaction was this? That was this interaction. What's the prior interaction? Okay, yeah, this is the prior interaction. Basically, it's a date, and either we need to choose coffee shop, video games. We picked coffee shop in the original because, that's the obvious, one. But, we have to pick video games now. Ultimately, I don't think it'll have an impact at all whatsoever. I think it'll just be whether she comes over or not. But yeah, it's just going to be a different interaction or whatnot. I think Yuri and I'd have fun playing video games. Tell Yuri to come over. She tells me that she'll be here in about 20 minutes. To start preparing for her arrival. This is such a bad idea. I can't believe this is an option in the game. This is so bad. It's almost time for Yuri to come over. Managed to tie up a few things for Yuri's arrival. I'm admittedly not the best when it comes to stand-up dates. God, I hate this option so much. I just hope this was a good idea. It's not. It really isn't. That must be Yuri. I head downstairs. I open the front door and find Yuri standing there. Hey, Yuri, thanks for coming over. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. So are you right? Suppose so. Is something wrong? No. I'm sorry. It's just that you never mentioned what we are doing. All right. Well, come upstairs and you'll see this is such a bad decision. I really don't want to read this dialogue that's going to come up, but I ultimately need to finish the mod. Take Yuri's hand in mine and walk upstairs to my bedroom. I hate this so much. This is not going to be good. This is not going to turn out good. We are in my room. I'm going to sit down and get comfortable. So Yuri sits down on my bed. Go over my TV to turn on. Yuri. How familiar are you with video games? Not very much at all, if I'm being honest. That's going to change. You're going to play one. Really? Yep. Never played any video game before. I always thought they were just about mindless killing. This is a video game. Well, I can't blame you for thinking that. Well, first off, what game is he planning on playing? That's a better question. Because, let's see. Oh, I thought games were mindless killing. What game are you playing? And it's I don't know, Warzone. Something like that. But true, a lot of games contain violence and not much substance. They're much more than that, though. Some even tell amazing stories. Should I get started then? Not we, but you. Huh? See? I can't. Sure you can. I know you've never played them before, but they're quite adaptable. Which one are you playing? I'll even help you if you get stuck. Please, Yuri? Yuri looks at me again. Okay, I'll give it a try. Awesome. I hand my controller to Yuri. Hop in a game. I think Yuri would enjoy it. We start playing. What is it? She says we have... Okay, they're not even going to say a game. However, to my surprise, she caught on fairly quickly. It was long before she started mastering the controls. We continued playing for a while. Okay, unnamed video game number 1. I'm surprised at how much time has passed. You've been playing for nearly an hour, and Yuri hasn't even grown tired of it. She seems to be really enjoying the story, judging by her intense expression. It's the same one she wears when reading a book that she's really into. I even say she's memorized by it. Oh my goodness. What is it? Nothing. It's just, never thought that a video game could be so engaging. We still don't know which one it is, so you're enjoying yourself. Okay, I admit it. I was wrong about video games. They really are more than just mindless killing and violence. We still don't know which one we're playing. It's almost like I'm actually in a book, I'm interacting with the world around me. So interesting. Glad you like it. Thought it'd be fun to show you some of my hobbies. Say it paid off well, wouldn't you say? I think it did. Thank you for sharing with me as you play around my arm around her. She looks in my direction, kissing me on the cheek. We both smile and continue playing. It's great to see that we share each other's interests while all while enjoying and learning something from them. So this is actually a good one. Definitely helps us grow as a couple. So yeah, this was actually good then. We've been playing for several hours now. It's getting pretty late. Seems like Yuri knows as well. It's getting late, isn't it? Unfortunately, yes. Oh, I'm afraid that I have to be leaving then. Sorry, MC. No, don't be. I understand. I had a lot of fun today. I did too. So yeah, ultimately the choice doesn't matter then. I walk Yuri downstairs to the front door. Thanks for coming over, Yuri. I really had a great time. Me too. I'm glad I gave video games a chance. Yeah, you really seem to enjoy them. Guess I'll see you at the club tomorrow? Yeah, I'll see you as well. I can kiss Yuri goodbye as she leaves. I'm really happy she enjoys one of my hobbies. So that's actually really interesting. So that was actually a good one as well, or a good ending. I ultimately think that is 0-10. Yeah, I think, I ultimately think that doesn't have any impact on anything later. I can't even see why, and I'm not going to go through every individual route to figure out so, but yeah, I mean, so that was which interaction? Okay, so that was hold on. That was this one, right? Yeah, coffee shop or video games. So page 3 or 2. Okay, so we don't have any choices here, those 3 are all single choices, so that doesn't matter. We have choices here or whatnot. We got 3. I think, honestly, here's what I think. I think only this first choice will lead to a different ending. I think if we choose not to join, that could be like a secret 4th ending or whatnot. Because here's the thing. I think for this choice, I think Sayori, if anything, would just call us out or whatnot. Or maybe it leads to something different down the line, but ultimately I don't think so. I think Sayori would just call us out here. We just say this. Really? Yeah, just a friend. I don't believe you. It's true, though. I've only known her for a few days now. Yeah, but you guys are always spending time together in the club. Well, yeah. Always reading? Yeah, but sharing tea? All right, I get it. You're getting frustrated. I'm not. Yeah, okay, this is working. That's what I figured. Sayori can see right through me. All right, fine. I may have feelings for her. I didn't want to admit it because I didn't know how you take it. I'm very happy for you, MC. You're pretty and smart. You'd be great for you. Yeah, that's what I figured. I'm like, I don't think this leads to anything different. I think she just calls us out here. You can feel sweat forming in my uniform. Please tell me you won't mention this to the other members, especially Yuri. Don't worry, I won't. But you will. I would feel awful if I told her instead of you. I will eventually. It's still a bit early though. I understand. Well, I'll see you later, MC. See you tomorrow, Sayori. Conversation trails off and I'm left feeling awkward. Sayori kind of did put me on the spot. I do feel comfortable making it to her though. She's my best friend after all. Okay, so yeah, that's what I figured. I figured ultimately there wouldn't be any difference regarding that. I think she would just call us out there. So I was correct. This could be interesting though. This could be interesting though. At least, yeah, because this is our initial interact. This will be interesting because this is the argument between Yuri and Natsuki, and ultimately, as opposed to like choose a side, ultimately we get 3 different options. God, this is taking it back all the way to the beginning. Ultimately, I think we picked diffuse situation. I think that was obvious. For now, I think what we do is we choose ask for help next. I need to ask for help. This is too much to handle. Sayori, Yeah, everyone's fine is making Sayori uncomfortable. This is like exactly what happens in the original dialogue. How can you keep fighting when you know you're making your friend feel like this? Let's just stop this petty argument. MC, well, that's her problem. This isn't about her. I agree. It's unfair for us to interject our own feelings into our conflict. That's literally what they asked us to do. Unless, of course, Sayori wants to tell Yuri what a stuck-up jerk she's being. She would never. It's your maturity that made her upset in the first place. Excuse me? You're listening to yourself. This is exactly why nobody likes. Stop. Okay, so Sayori actually does intervene, though. Natsuki, Yuri, you guys are my friends. Just want everyone to get along and be happy. Friends are wonderful people. I love you guys because of your differences. Natsuki's poems are amazing because they have so many feelings with just a few words. And Yuri's poems are amazing because they paint beautiful pictures in your head. But here's the thing, though, because this is actually what goes down in the original game. because whether we pick Yuri or Natsuki, ultimately we don't diffuse the situation. We just enrage it. Ultimately, say Yuri is the one who needs to diffuse it in the original Act 1 of the game. Everyone's so talented. So why are we fighting? Because, well, I guess you are correct, Sayori. Yeah, I guess so. Natsuki takes a deep breath. This may have been the best ending, though. Yuri, she chose a foreign sentence. I'm sorry for what I said. I didn't really mean it. The poetry is actually pretty good. This is pretty interesting, though, because ultimately, when we try and diffuse the situation, when we pick that first option of diffuse the situation, ultimately Yuri agrees to try and diffuse it, but Natsuki doesn't. So she yells at Yuri, and Yuri runs off ultimately. So I just took your criticism the wrong way, and I shouldn't have said those things. Even if it's not my favorite style, writing style, symbolism can easily grab the reader's attention. I think you excel at that. I accept your apology, Natsuki. I'm sorry that I didn't accurately describe your poem. I really wasn't trying to be hurtful. I think your writing is very effective, even if it's simple. No one achieves it as well as you do. Thanks. Natsuki, are we still friends? Okay, but this is still the interaction and whatnot, though. Natsuki approaches Yuri and hugs her. Come here, you. Aw. All I can say is this was a successful meeting. Walk over to Monica and whisper in her ear. Sayori does make a good vice president, huh? Monica nods. To be honest, I might come off as a good leader, but I'm not very good with people. This is literally what I've been saying the whole mod. I mean, she hasn't said it herself, but this is what I've been saying. I'm like, and this is ultimately evident during the festival when Yuri ultimately flips and she couldn't see it coming. Couldn't even bring myself to interject. It's personally, that's kind of embarrassing to me. Haha. No, don't feel bad. Can't blame me for it. I wasn't able to say anything myself. I was scared about what would happen if I chose either side. Yeah, that could have gone a lot worse. That's actually interesting, though. I'm glad Yuri and Natsuki saw the differences. I'm going to keep going, though. We all continue chatting until the club finally ends. Here's the interesting thing, though. Okay, so yeah, because here's the interesting thing. Before I even click stay quiet, because if we diffuse the situation, yeah, because here's what happens. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not how it works. You have to choose. It's my style or Yuri's. We're back square on. This isn't going well. Before I could say anything, Yuri broke silence. Yeah, because then Yuri says, yes, let's drop this. But ultimately, Natsuki comes back. So as opposed to, if we bring Sayori into it and she sells the argument, they immediately resolve. But ultimately, if we try and diffuse it, that's not the case. Yeah, here's the issue. Because then Yuri runs off and we have this separate interaction with her. Yeah, because, this is actually really interesting. Because this is probably actually the worst thing that could have happened, if we diffuse the situation. Because obviously, if we let Sayori take over, we just completely skip this, we completely skip this, what would you call it? We completely skip this sort of scene or interaction or whatnot if we let Yuri solve it as opposed to us. But if we try and solve it, ultimately this is what happens. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. But then we also miss this extra interaction with Yuri. So I think that it ultimately really is interesting. I think this is interesting. Because by this point, we aren't official with Yuri. In fact, we just met her. So this extra scene let's not do that. That extra scene may make a difference. But I mean, yeah, so here, Natsuki apologizes or whatnot. Yeah, so this is the opposite. Because ultimately, this is actually really cool. Because in the opposite, because if we let Sayori diffuse it, Yuri's the one who asks if we're still friends, and then Natsuki responds with this. But in this situation, given we try to diffuse it, ultimately Natsuki's asking if we're still friends, and Yuri's the one saying this. I think that's really interesting. Monica walks over to me and whispers in my ear, "You did good. Hold on." We said, let's see. And say it was a successful meeting. It's the least I can do. We're a club after all. That could have gone a lot worse. Because he says that both times. I'm glad that Yuri and Natsuki saw their differences. Yeah, because ultimately, he says it could have gone a lot worse than this. But this was ultimately worse than just clicking have Sayori interfere. Because this is what I want to show. So we completely skip that interaction if we let Sayori interfere or whatnot. Or we let Sayori diffuse the situation as opposed to us. Yeah. Yeah, and Yuri's the one who says that, though. Yeah, because Yuri says, Natsuki, are we still friends? And then in this one, Natsuki's the one saying, we're still friends or whatnot. I think that's really interesting. Now, because I just wanted to point that out, given if we diffuse the situation ourselves as opposed to asking for Sayori, ultimately we get that extra interaction, or ultimately more so if Sayori dissolves it as opposed to us, we completely skip that scene. And ultimately, Yuri's the one asking if they're still friends as opposed to Natsuki. But I mean, now we got to pick stay quiet, which is probably the worst option given both diffuse situation and ask for help have said, okay, that could have gone a lot worse. So this is likely the a lot worse option. I decided to just stay quiet. He's just going to sit there. Well, whose side are you on? This isn't working. Can't stay quiet forever. Or I could say anything. Yuri broke the silence. Natsuki, I think we should stop. Making MC in the R is uncomfortable. Natsuki gives Yuri a miffed look. We? What do you mean we? This is the same, no, you're the one making him uncomfortable. If you hadn't been so obnoxious with your symbolism, this conflict wouldn't have happened. You just couldn't resist, huh? Try to come off as being smart. In the end, you just end up being even more egotistical than before. No wonder why anybody can't take you seriously. You're just a pretentious know-it-all. Nothing less. Natsuki. Okay, so yeah. But then we get the same interaction. That's actually interesting, though. So the right choice in this situation, which we didn't take, was ultimately to let Sayori solve it. Because regardless of whether we stay quiet or diffuse it ourselves, ultimately we get that interaction with Yuri. The only reason where they immediately the only one where they immediately make up and we don't ultimately get that interaction is if we ask Sayori for help. I think that's really interesting. Anyway, I don't think that has any impact. Obviously, I don't think that has any impact later in the mod. And I'm already at an hour 20, so I'm not going to go through it. Now we got to go back to this decision. This is where I think there may be a fourth secret ending, because here she's literally asking us if we want to join the club. This is the very first choice in the game we get. I'm thinking, if we decline, maybe there's a secret ending or something where it's like, oh, okay, and then we just never meet Yuri and the game ends. I think that'd be hilarious. I've been predicting that since the beginning, but obviously, the alternative is she just says, like, pretty please, and then, like, we accept. But, Sayori, I'm going to have to decline your offer. I'm not trying to be mean, but literature just doesn't sound like my idea of fun. Are you sure? Yeah, I'll pass her now. Okay, MC, I understand. I feel like I made Sayori a little sad. Her and those puppy dog eyes. Maybe I can at least cheer up and keep my promise about art clubs at least. Don't feel bad, Sayori. I'm still looking into art clubs if it makes you happy. Sayori's bubbly personality suddenly got re-intrigued. Even if I said no to literature club, she still seems happy about the fact that I give art clubs a chance. That's great to hear. Hopefully you'll find something you like. As long as you're happy and I'm happy. We'll just have to see. In the meantime, we should get going. We'll be late for class if we don't hurry. Sayori nods when we both resume our walk to school. We reach the school grounds to say goodbye to Sayori and go to our respective classes. So yeah, is this a secret ending or what? That's what I was thinking. Like maybe it's potentially a secret ending. School day is pretty ordinary. It's over before I know it. The bell rings. Most of the students leave the classroom. I walk out into the hallway. Let's see. Sayori told me that she wanted me to look at some clubs. I guess I could start at the chess club. Very basic, I know, but it's something. At least I'll be interacting with others. Even though I'm not a shy person, I feel somewhat nervous about going to the club. One of the reasons that I like Sayori so much is because I've known her for a while now. Just have to relax a little. It's only a club after all. Oh my God. This is interesting because this was the initial interaction we had with Yuri, but now we don't know that, but now, we actually weren't planning on going to a literature club. So this could potentially be different. See, I guess I wasn't paying much attention. Turned to the girl I just ran into. She looks back at me. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. She looks away, embarrassed. I don't think she needs to be apologizing. I was the one not paying attention to my surroundings. Oh no, don't be. I was lost in thought and ran into you by accident. I'm really sorry. See, she seems a little shy. Need to save the situation. Hey, I promise you I didn't do anything wrong. It was entirely my fault. There's no need to dwell on it. Besides, it's just an accident, right? I suppose you are right. Are you all right? Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. Good. See, I looked down for a brief second and realized she had dropped her books after I ran into her. Oh, your books. Let me get them for you. I went on my hands and knees and began picking up all her books. While grabbing them, I noticed they're not school textbooks. She was carrying a handful of novels. She must be into reading. I get back on my feet and give her the books back to her. Here you go, all your books. Hopefully they aren't damaged or anything. Oh, I'm sure they're fine. Thank you, She starts for a second. It's only then I realized I haven't introduced myself. Oh, sorry, my name's MC. Nice to meet you, MC. My name's Yuri. Nice to meet you as well, Yuri. I offer my hand to Yuri. She accepts my handshake. We stand there awkwardly for a few seconds. So, where are you going, Yuri? It's actually going to attend my club. Oh, what club is that? It's the literature club. I should have guessed based on the amount of reading material she possessed. So now he's got 2 out of 4 members down. Oh, how interesting. You like literature too? Well, I'm not exactly an expert on the subject, but it's interesting, I'd say. Maybe you should come by and see if you like the club. I could even take you there if you're unsure of its location. Well, I tried forming an answer, but the words wouldn't leave my mouth. I guess I can give it a shot. Are you sure, MC? You seem a little apprehensive. No, I'm fine. In fact, a friend of mine referred me to the club as well. I might as well try it out for her and myself, I guess. So that's very thoughtful of you, even if you're just doing so because they requested you to try it. It's very endearing. It gives me a warm smile. It's a very pleasant sight, to be honest. Thank you, Yuri. No problem at all. Even if it wasn't my original idea, Yuri and I made our way to the Literature Club. I feel a little bad for dismissing Sayori's request. She's only trying to help me be more social. Who knows? I might end up liking literature. Yeah, so presumably Sayori will be surprised. It's quiet most of the way, but I personally don't mind. Neither does Yuri, it seems. We eventually arrive at the club. Peeked inside the door, see if anyone else is inside. I see 3 girls, 2 of which I can't make out as they're turned around. However, of those 3 girls, I see Sayori standing in the room. Well, here we go. Grab the hell and open the door. I wonder, because she doesn't know we're going to come here, right? I enter the room, followed by Yuri, and close the door behind me. MC, you came anyway? I had to change of heart, okay? I feel like there was a rather pitiful excuse, but Sayori's happy to see me here nonetheless. At this point, I'm only trying to please as many people as possible. Thank you for giving it a chance. You're the best. Hello, MC. It's nice to see you here, because now we know it's 3 or 4. My heart skips a beat. It's Monica, most popular girl in school. Given the size of this school, I mean, that's a pretty big achievement, just throwing that out there. Because we saw how big the theater was, literally dozens upon dozens of rows. She's in the literature club. Thanks for stopping by my club. She's even the president. Guess I shouldn't be too surprised. Monica's been the leader of clubs in many clubs after all. Hey, Monica. Thanks for having me. Nowhere. Third girl walks up. You came me? Okay, I'm going to see when it, because there's no, ultimately we can't skip here, but I think there's nothing that's different. Yeah, like ultimately nothing's different. Like here we should get the option to skip if anything. Okay, no, but I mean, I'm not sure. I still don't trust not being able to skip. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, like, because usually you get the option to skip if there's no new dialogue. But ultimately, you know, this mod's been kind of weird with it or whatnot. I mean, wait, what does he say? Hold on. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just going to skip this until something like something's different. It doesn't even seem that different. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know why I don't have the option to skip here. That makes me like suspicious. Yeah, and then ultimately we go home here, right? So, because we actually don't even do anything the first day or whatnot. Like, oh yeah, we have this interaction where you say we may potentially not join or whatnot. And then, yeah, obviously we do at the end of the day. Yeah, I just don't know why we couldn't skip that because ultimately, okay, because yeah, here's what happens. Because Sayori walks home by herself. Ultimately, she's not against it. But we actually go and, we actually go and sort of do our poem on our own accord as opposed to what is it? Just doing it like at night. Yeah, and then we have an interaction with Yuri here or whatnot. Oh no, I completely forgot. We just see that. Yeah, and then this is Yuri. So we have our interaction here. And yeah, ultimately this is the same, I think. Let's see. And then yeah, we talk with Yuri and she helps us like sort of get motivation to write or whatnot. I mean, and this is another interaction we have outside of the club or whatnot. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, so this is the interaction we have outside the club. But I mean, yeah, so ultimately, and then yeah, of course it gets night or whatnot. But I'm gonna end it here. It's already been an hour and 30. That's 30 more minutes than I anticipated. But ultimately, so there isn't some sort of secret ending in the beginning that would be pretty funny where it's like, oh, like you just decline and then you just never meet anyone. But I mean, you never meet Yuri to begin with. So there is no secret ending. At the end, that's actually really interesting how regardless of whether you go to the club or not, we ultimately bump into Yuri. And even if we don't choose to go to the club, she still shows us there or whatnot. I think that's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, that is really interesting, I think. Yeah, so ultimately, that's really all I've got. So there are ultimately 3 different endings to this mod. The first ending is the good ending, kind of like the main timeline ending, where ultimately, you know, we stick with Yuri, we stay with Yuri. Ultimately, we perform at the talent show. Ultimately, Clyde is a change of heart, and then we spend like more time with Yuri or whatnot. That's the first ending. The second ending is we ultimately don't stay with Yuri, but we do still save her. And then ultimately what happens later is she's like has an interaction with Klein. Ultimately, Yuri goes like Yuri and the MC part their separate ways because Yuri ultimately moves and the MC kind of stays with everyone else and the club kind of like dissolves. And basically everyone just goes their separate ways. But that's a more neutral ending given that that gives Yuri the opportunity to transform and reinvent herself, which she likely does. Not necessarily negative. That's not a bad ending, but ultimately it's just more neutral ending. And then obviously the bad ending is ultimately we don't get to Yuri's place in time and ultimately she kills herself. And then we pull Romeo and Juliet. Those are the three endings. There may be a different ending where we potentially go through the game like with perfect, given, asking for Sayori's help ultimately, as opposed, given that asking for Sayori's help prevents our interaction with Yuri or just completely bypasses our interaction with Yuri, that may lead to a different, I'm going to keep going until, because this may lead to something different, given that we completely skip that or bypass that interaction with Yuri. I'm just going to keep this going because it may just go straight to the end of the mod from this point. But I mean, if there's any sort of potential differences, this may be it regarding, because remember, we didn't pick that in the original one. We tried to solve it ourselves in the original one. But I mean, that could have ultimately, us not having that interaction with Yuri, given it's the only one where we don't, could potentially have an impact later on. I don't think so. That's why I'm just kind of skipping until, like, we don't need to anymore. Just curious, just because I'm curious. I'm already now on 30 and I might as well be thorough and do all the possible things or whatnot. Yeah, I think this is really interesting. Let's see. Yeah, we're still going through this or whatnot. This is for the festival or whatnot, so yeah, I mean, this is really interesting. Because I think that we had some options. Like we had the option to choose Yuri for we had the option to choose Yuri for reading. We had the option to choose Yuri to spend time with during the weekend. Then we have this option. Because here's the thing. Or well, actually, hold on. So yeah, actually, hold on. So let's see. But there are other options. I want to see if we have other options to pick Yuri or whatnot. Because I'm not sure if there are just single options that ultimately we need to wait for him. But I mean, I don't know. Ultimately, I don't know. That's just what I'm gonna check until. It's like, yeah. Yeah, so this is ultimately where I choose to spend time with Yuri or whatnot. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna end it here. So there was no differing option depending on whether or not we have that interaction with Yuri. But I mean, yeah, so given the three endings, I think that was good. Honestly, I like that they had an ending that was a neutral take. That wasn't necessarily good nor bad, but more so a logical, like, oh, like it just didn't work out. We all just go our separate ways or not, whatnot. I really like their take on that. Obviously, with the ending the bad ending where Yuri dies or whatnot, I don't like how they made the MC kill himself as well. I don't like how they made it like a Romeo and Juliet thing. I think it'd be very interesting if ultimately, he had to live with like the consequences or something. But I mean, I'm not sure how they play it out. It makes sense what they did. But yeah, I really like, honestly, just wrapping it all because this is the last video I'm making or whatnot. Basically, this mod's just pretty much superior to Fallen Angel in every retrospect. There's nothing really much else I could say. This is the ideal Yuri mod or whatnot. I mean, and I really like how we had different choices. The three parts I really liked about the mod. Actually, four. One, I liked how streamlined it was. I really liked how streamlined it was. Like, I don't like how there were ultimately, I think it was good that there weren't that many comedic moments, and ultimately it was mostly serious and mostly like developmental interactions and whatnot. Second, I really liked the voice acting. That was honestly part of what made the mod, given that they gave Yuri a voice actor. Mods rarely do that, and a mod like this that's already streamlined, like I said, I ultimately think that was a good decision. Three, given that we had multiple choices and endings, mainly being endings. I like how there are multiple endings to this tale. Most mods, they just have a single ending, which will likely be Fallen Angel. Granted, not necessarily, because in the next recording of Fallen Angel, that's when I'm going to explore whether or not there's different endings. But it definitely seems like there's only one ending. But I mean, yeah, I'm going to end it here because that's all I've really got. That was the last one. Definitely the superior Yuri mod, Outcast. So, really was a great mod. One of the best I played. I've thought about it, and I think it breaks my top 5. So I think my top 5 at this point has now become New Eyes, which also Yuri mod, Rain Clouds, Behind Closed Doors, Salvation, and I'm actually going to put Outcast right at number 5. Obviously, I have a tier list, but completely ignoring that because that's arbitrary. Just sort of out of the mods I played, Outcast, this is my fifth favorite mod for the reasons I mentioned prior. But yeah, I'm gonna end it here. It's really all I've got. It's only been hour 30, so nothing really more I can do. So yep, guess that's it for this one. We'll see you in the next one.